Hello everyone, welcome to back my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Jelly Roll's emotional moment at today's event. The bright lights overhead weren't the kind you could hide from. They cut through the air like searchlights, illuminating every angle of the stage. For Jelly Roll, standing in the middle of that stage was always a mix of gratitude and disbelief. He had lived enough darkness in his life to know how rare moments like this truly were. Today's event was supposed to be just another performance, another chance to sing the songs that had become the soundtrack of his redemption. Fans filled the arena, a sea of faces that had been touched by his words, his struggles, and his victories. He had walked into the venue thinking it would be business as usual, sing, connect, and leave. But destiny had something else in mind. As he gripped the microphone, his voice carried through the crowd with its signature rasp, thick with emotion. He poured himself into the lyrics, telling stories of mistakes, forgiveness, and second chances. The audience was on their feet, swaying, singing, some with tears streaming down their cheeks. Jelly Roll was no stranger to tears. In fact, his own eyes were glistening under the stage lights. But the most emotional moment of the night didn't come from the music. It came from what happened next. After finishing his song, he paused. He lowered the mic and took a deep breath. His chest rose and fell slowly as though he were steadying himself. Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw someone walking toward the stage. The crowd gasped. At first, Jelly Roll thought it was just another fan who had found their way past security. But then, the spotlight shifted, and the audience erupted in cheers. It was John, the wrestling legend and Hollywood star, climbed the steps with a grin, his towering frame unmistakable. Jelly Roll laughed through his surprise and reached out his hand, pulling in for a hug. It wasn't a polite, staged hug. It was one of those bone-deep embraces that said more than words could. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jelly Roll said into the microphone, his voice cracking with both laughter and emotion, "I think we all know who this is." The arena roared. Took the mic, but his tone was soft, almost vulnerable. "I came here tonight not as John the wrestler or the actor. I came here as a fan of this man, of his story, of his fight." He gestured toward Jelly Roll. "What he stands for is bigger than music. It's about believing you're never too far gone to turn it all around." Jelly Roll swallowed hard. He had been praised before, by fans, by fellow artists, but something about words pierced deeper. Maybe it was because they both understood struggle in different forms. Had spent his career fighting battles in the ring and the spotlight. Jelly Roll had fought his in the streets, in prison cells, in addiction clinics, and in the mirror. Then came the moment that turned the event from a concert into something unforgettable. Asked if he could share a story. The crowd quieted. He talked about a young fan he had once met through Make-A-Wish, a boy who had been gravely ill but who carried with him one of Jelly Roll's songs as a source of strength. The boy's parents had played that song every night during treatment. "Music heals in ways nothing else can," said, his voice tight with emotion. That little boy found courage because of Jelly Roll's words. Jelly Roll froze. He had no idea. His hands trembled slightly as he covered his mouth, tears streaming freely now. The arena was dead silent except for the faint sobs of fans moved by the story. "I've been blessed to grant hundreds of wishes in my life," continued, "but I've never forgotten that boy, and I've never forgotten the music that gave him hope. That's why I needed to be here today, to thank this man for what he gives to the world." Jelly Roll stepped forward, microphone shaking in his hand. He tried to speak, but his voice caught in his throat. "Man," he finally managed, "you don't know what that means to me. I started making music because I thought it might be the only way I could survive myself. To know it helped someone else survive, that's everything." The crowd cheered wildly, but neither man seemed to hear it. They were locked in a shared moment of humanity, vulnerability, and gratitude. Two men from very different worlds, one from wrestling rings, the other from street corners, stood together in the middle of an arena, bound by the invisible thread of music's power. Then, without rehearsal or planning, Jelly Roll asked to stay on stage for one more song. He strummed the first chords on his guitar, his voice low and reverent. "This one's for everyone who thinks they can't make it through," he said, "because you can." The song wasn't about perfection, it was about survival, and as Jelly Roll sang, stood beside him, head bowed, one arm around his shoulder. Fans lifted their phones, lights glowing like tiny stars across the arena. Together, they created a moment no one there would ever forget. When the song ended, Jelly Roll whispered into the mic, "We all fall, but it's not about the fall, it's about getting back up." He looked at and nodded in agreement, mouthing the words, "Never give up." The phrase, famous motto, suddenly felt like the perfect bridge between their worlds. The concert ended not with fireworks or loud theatrics, but with something far more powerful: silence, then thunderous applause, then tears and hugs shared among strangers in the crowd. People left that night not just with a memory of music, but with a reminder of resilience, of second chances, of how even the unlikeliest people can come together to inspire hope. For Jelly Roll, it wasn't just another event. It was proof that his story mattered, that the scars he once thought disqualified him from greatness were the very things connecting him to thousands of people. And for it was another chapter in his lifelong mission to spread strength and kindness in unexpected places. As the arena emptied and the lights dimmed, Jelly Roll lingered on stage, staring at the spot where he and had stood shoulder to shoulder. He closed his eyes and whispered a quiet thank you to the boy, to the fans, to the music, and to the chance life had given him to start again. Some moments are bigger than fame, bigger than music, bigger than the stage. Tonight was one of those, and Jelly Roll knew he would carry it with him forever.